of Biliteracy and how to leverage it for graduating globally competent and college and career ready students. Welcome, we're really excited to see you all here. And we're going to introduce ourselves in a moment, but if you would, while we do that, I'd like all of you to type in the chat your name, district, and your role or title. Thank you. And my name is Eva Pando Solis, and I am a coordinator in the MEGA department of the San Diego County Office of Education. MEGA stands for Multilingual Education and Global Achievement. And I started my career in Spain, which is where I'm originally from. And I was a world language teacher of English and French for about 7 years. And then I came to California. And in California, I have been a teacher, an instructional coach, an administrator, serving mostly in programs for English learners and multilingual learners. And now I would like to invite my co-presenter to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juan Santos, and I'm from the San Diego area. I actually grew up in the San Isidro, Chula Vista area, growing up all the way up until I got married. So we still go down there and visit and miss San Diego dearly. But I'm the principal at Paris High School. I have been the principal here at Paris High School for the last 4 years. And it has been a pleasure to have been a counselor, a middle school and high school counselor, and also a middle school and high school assistant principal and now principal here at Paris High School. So a lot of the information that we're going to provide to you are things that can apply to you, whether you're a counselor or an administrator, to be able to get some good things going with the Seal of Biliteracy. So a pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you.
And I see that we have a lot of advisors and counselors. So we're very excited that you're all here with us. Okay, and you know how we always start with a little bit of a nice breaker, right? So look at the number on the screen, 254,417. And what do you think this number represents? And please type it in the chat. It's just a game, so no right or wrong. Just take a risk. What do you think this might mean? Number of students who receive a biliteracy seal a year. We have someone that already guessed. So not quite a year yet, but this is the number of California students who received the seal between 2014 and 2019. So we would love to have this be the number every year, and that is what we are striving for, right? But this high number of students that have already received the seal in these 5 years is really a testament to the work that you are all doing, to the work that world language teachers do, to the work that administrators do, and anyone that is really supporting and working towards the seal of biliteracy. And as we're going to see, there's many things you can do to enhance the number of students at your sites. Next slide. So today we're going to talk about the Global California 2030 initiative and how it supports the California State Seal of Biliteracy. We will also go into the requirements of the seal. That can be a little confusing, and hopefully we'll be able to clarify some of those requirements for you and share some latest news about the seal for this particular year. And the question of what can we do to increase the number of seals awarded at our school that you may have. So we would like to give you some ideas about that. So Global California 2030. Global California 2030 is an initiative of the prior Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, that is fully supported by the new superintendent. And as we go to the next slide, this initiative responds to the educational needs in California. We know that California could be a country of its own, right? We have almost 40 million inhabitants, and we're a nation state. If California was its own country, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world. So it depends on what sources you check. Some say 6th, some say 5th. I like 5th. And we're right behind the US, China, Japan, and Germany, and ahead of India, for example. And so this robust economy requires an educational force that responds to its needs. But not only our economy. Let's go to the next slide, Sandra. Our educational system is enormous. We have 6,163,000 students. This is only public schools with 319,000 teachers all learning together in 10,588 schools. And these are data from yesterday. And so not only is our educational system enormous, but it is also very diverse, Sandra. Next slide, please. And I forgot to mention, Sandra is our
Moderator.
Thank you, moderator today. And she's helping us run everything very smoothly. So our educational system is also very diverse, as you know very well, because you are in it, right? These are our students. The majority are Latino students right now in public schools in California. 22% are white, 9% Asian, 2.4% Filipino. So very diverse population in our schools. And so Global California 2030 tries to respond to not only the needs of our economic system, but also our educational system and our population. Let's go to the next slide. This is the mission of Global California 2030, to equip students with world language skills to better appreciate and more fully engage with the rich and diverse mixture of culture, heritages, and languages found in California and the world, while also preparing them to succeed in the global economy. And as important as the economy is, I love the part about the appreciation of the cultures and the heritages and culture and languages found in California. And call me an idealist, but I believe that by opening up our students' minds to other cultures and taking advantage of their natural curiosity for other perspectives and other languages, we contribute to creating a world that is a little bit more peaceful, because we educate more open-minded and welcoming students. So I love that part about Global California 2030. Next. So in order to fulfill this mission, Global California has some key goals. And the first one is that by 2030, half of all K-12 students will be participating in some kind of program leading them to bilingualism or multilingualism. Also by 2030, The hope is that more than 150,000 students will have received the seal, will receive the seal on that year. On 2030, this will be the number of students receiving the seal. And by 2040, 3 out of 4 graduating seniors will earn the seal of biliteracy. And alongside these key goals, there are, of course, goals about increasing the number of multilingual programs, increasing the number of teachers who teach in multilingual programs, and so on and so forth. But we are going to focus on the seal of biliteracy because this is our topic for today. And so with Global California 2030, you can see here how the numbers of seals awarded every year have increased until we reach that 2030, 150,000. And drum roll, Sandra, how many did we award for 2019? So that's the number of seals that we awarded last year. And we hope to increase that a lot more. In order to do this and to really improve the quality of world language programs and dual language programs, the California Department of Education is creating opportunities for more funding, grants, and so on and so forth. And this is the relevance of this Global California 2030. Let's go to the next. Okay, so the California State Seal of Biliteracy. Let's talk a little bit more about it. And I don't know, Juan, if you had anything that you wanted to mention.
Sorry, forgot I was muted. I think you did well. No worries,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So State Seal of Biliteracy is a recognition that is conferred by the state superintendent of public instruction for high school students who have attained a high level of proficiency. And this is important in listening, speaking, reading, and writing in one or more languages in addition to English. You can see the student there, very proud with her diploma and the seal on it, as well as the medallion. I think that we have, let's see, we have a question. Will this PowerPoint be shared? Yes, we can do that. And at the end of the presentation, I will share with you my email and I can send you a PDF of the PowerPoint. Okay. So of course, if we were in the same room together, I would love to ask you, how many of you are bilingual? Or how many of you are multilingual? And you would be able to raise your hand. And I know that there are ways of doing it in Zoom as well, but it's just not the same, is it? But perhaps I'm speaking, I'm pretty sure, or preaching to the choir when I say that the seal of biliteracy and being bilingual has a lot of really good benefits for students, for all of us. It encourages students to pursue biliteracy, it honors their skills, and it serves as evidence of biliteracy skills that are very attractive, as you know, for employers and college admissions officers as well. I'm sure you're aware of that. I became very aware of that last year when my son was applying to colleges. And we were very happy that he could add the seal of biliteracy to his achievements. Next slide. And also benefits of bilingualism. Bilingualism in itself has a lot of benefits, as you know, cognitive, educational, economic, and socio-cultural as well. This is a graphic that came to us from the Office of English Language Acquisition, and it's just hot off the press. so I couldn't include it with the materials that are that were offered to you. And I believe that Sandra has just put the link in the chat so you can access it. Oh, Sergio. Sergio, I don't know if you raised your hand because you're bilingual or if you had a question.
Yes, because I'm bilingual.
Excellent. So maybe some of you want to do that as well and raise your hand and let us know that you're bilingual or multilingual. So I encourage you to take a look at this infographic and to share it with teachers, share it with your students and families to promote the benefits of multilingualism, right? And alongside it, the benefits of the Seal of Biliteracy. And I begin to see a lot of hands. Awesome. Excellent. All right. Next slide, Sandra. Okay. So here is where San Diego is in terms of how many seals of biliteracy we are awarding every year. And so, of course, Los Angeles County is a lot larger than us, but San Diego, I would want to do better and to offer more than 8% of our high school seniors and graduates the Seal of Biliteracy. So we'll see what we can do about it. Next slide. What can we do in order to increase the number of seals awarded at our schools? So one thing that we can do is, and as counselors, I know you have a lot of students that you work with, but I would say becoming aware of the linguistic assets that students bring with them. And I'll say a little bit more about this in the next slides, because they already bring to us a lot of skills in another language in many occasions. We can also understand the requirements of the Seal of Biliteracy, so that when we see that a student is close to the seal, that we can encourage them to stay in those language classes and to take them, and again, we'll talk about this a little more. I think that many families and many students are not aware of this great opportunity with the seal. Also collaborate and align vertically with elementary and feeder middle schools. There may be elementary schools in your system and feeder middle schools that offer bilingual programs. And so those students that get to you already have an enormous wealth of understanding about another language. And it's important to build on that. And you can steer them to the correct classes for them. And also you can start a public relations campaign. So you can publicize the State Seal at your site. And then Juan is going to tell us a little bit more about that. Okay. And of course, publicly recognizing the students that receive the seal. And he will also tell us from his experience what he's done. So the first one.
Sorry, Eva, there was one question in the chat about
oh, yes.
the last slide with the pie chart.
Is this 8% total or only 8% of the San Diego County students?
It is the 8% of high school graduates in San Diego County. So I'm sure that you know, we can increase that percentage. Thank you for that question. Okay, so the first point was to really understand the assets that students bring to us in every aspect. Of course, as counselors, you are used to doing that. And in particular, we're referring here to linguistic assets. Did you know that the Filipino language is the 4th most spoken in California? I wasn't aware of that until recently. Of course, we all know that Spanish is the most widely spoken, after English, and so is Chinese. But then Filipino, I had no idea that that was the fourth most spoken. And so, especially here in San Diego, we have many Filipino students, or the language is also called Tagalog. But look at the next slide and the data that is going to show us. And let's understand what we are seeing here a little bit, because we have 77%, of course, of the seals that are earned are in Spanish, and that makes a lot of sense. 8% is in French, the next one. Mandarin, 6%. Japanese, 2%, and so on and so forth. It becomes less and less. We even have 1% of seals are in Latin, which is a language that, you know, is not spoken, it's a dead language. And however, in that little sliver that says other languages 1%, if you click on there we go, thank you, Sandra. Other languages 1%. And on the left side, you have what those languages are. And amongst those languages, if we click, Filipino is only one of the many languages that are part of that 1%. And yet we were saying is the fourth most spoken language in California. So, you know, there is some work here to do to provide opportunities for Filipino students to attain the seal. But one of the biggest difficulties is the fact that there isn't an AP exam, for example, in Filipino, and there aren't any off-the-shelf assessments for the Filipino language, and that, of course, is a difficulty right there. Let's move on to the next slide, Sandra. So again, when we focus on the linguistic assets of our students, we have students that are native speakers of a language other than English that come to us. They have perhaps gone to school in a different country. And for them, that language and that culture is their dominant. We also have heritage speakers of maybe Spanish. We have a lot of heritage speakers of Spanish. They didn't learn Spanish in a Spanish-speaking country, but they learned it in the US, here in California, typically in their home. And so they have a lot of cultural competence and also linguistic proficiency, mostly in informal settings. But this is something that comes with them and something to build on, a great foundation to build on. And we also have students from bilingual programs that, as I was saying earlier, perhaps from elementary and middle schools in your system that learn these skills in a target language. And we don't want them to lose them. They need to reinforce them while they are with us in high school, right? And so the Seal of Biliteracy can be a great motivator for all of these students, and of course for students whose English is the first language. Naturally, also for students who've never learned another language, they can start with us in high school. But the Seal of Biliteracy can be a great motivator for all of these students to continue and to start and continue in these linguistic programs or language programs. Next slide. Here is an example of a high school in the county that offers different pathways. So for example, they offer Spanish for Spanish speakers, and it could be, you know, native speakers of Spanish or heritage speakers, speakers that have a foundation in Spanish, and they can come into these classes. Then they also provide Spanish classes for non-native. So students who haven't had a lot of exposure perhaps to the language before coming to high school. And they also have a dual language program that articulates with the middle school and high school and elementary schools that have dual language programs, even though they are separate systems. So they're separate LEAs, and yet they articulate and they coordinate so that the students from those dual language programs can access a dual language program as well in high school. And the purpose is for everyone to really be able to take AP Spanish language, and eventually, if they have time, literature. It might not be attainable for all students, but for many it might. And then they also have a lot of fluidity between the Spanish for Spanish speakers classes and the Spanish for non-natives and dual language, so that students can move horizontally and they can attend the class that will better respond to their needs, but always planning with that end in mind, which is the Seal of Biliteracy. And the same thing with the American Sign Language program that they offer. It's always looking at the seal as that end in mind.
This
Right.
particular slide, it's important, you know, if we can reference it back when I start speaking with regards to the Seal of Biliteracy, to be able to figure out a way to be able to pre-package this for students and come up with some really good graphics and designs that can be school, that could be adopted by every school to be able to create these pathways. It will give students a visual if they are in every single classroom in high school to be able to see that this is something they could achieve. And so if schools are able to personalize this, this gives them a visual to be able to see that this is something that's doable for them.
Yes. And I see that we have a question in the chat. What level does community college ASL 101 count for? And unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that. I don't know if anyone in the audience would be able to answer it. Basically, in general, in order to attain the seal of biliteracy, a student has to perform at a level of intermediate, mid in the language according to ACTFL. And so that corresponds to a 3, for example, in the AP exam. So with the AP exam, if they get a 3, they will attain the seal. And I'll go into that a little more. But one good news regarding community colleges and colleges is that some are trying to create their own seal of biliteracy. And I know that San Diego State now offers a seal of biliteracy for college students. My school only offers ASL through year 3. Is there a way for students to take an exam at level 4 to qualify? Okay, do you mind holding on to that question, because we're going to move into the requirements and I will be able to answer that question there and it'll make more sense within that context. And so pathways to the seal of biliteracy, these are, as you can see, elementary students that may go through these pathways and they receive pathway awards. So that when they get to high school, it's so important that they are able to continue this journey and that they know all the possibilities that they have to take the classes, language classes, and to attain the seal. Otherwise, all of this really hard work that they've done through middle school will not result in the seal of biliteracy. All of these other seals that they get and awards are really local. They're not recognized by the state. However, the state seal of biliteracy is awarded by the state. It's recognized in other states of other US states, is recognized by colleges, it's recognized by employers. So it's important that we offer those opportunities to these students and that we let families know. And Juan is going to tell us more about that. Next slide. Okay, so the requirements for the seal. And I hope that when I go through this, we will clarify some of those questions. So, of course, since it's a biliteracy seal, we need to provide evidence or students that are biliterate in English and at least another language. There could be more. So they have to show their proficiency in English. And these are the requirements for that aspect of English. They have to complete all English language arts graduation requirements with a 2-point grade average or above, okay? And they also have to pass the ELA California assessment, the CASP, as standard met or above, okay? So these are the two requirements for English. However, next slide, Sandra. This is interesting for this year. For all of your graduates of 2021, since we didn't have a CASP assessment, the requirement is only to complete all of the English language arts requirements with that GPA of 2, minimum GPA of 2.0. Okay, and of course, there's no, 1 second, Sandra, go back, please. Thank you. This is a great news for some of our English learners, because one of the things that they have the highest challenge with is in passing that CASP, right? So this year, a lot of English learners are going to have the opportunity to attain the seal that wouldn't have had it if they didn't score very well in CASP. And so again, this is really important information for you to know as counselors, for administrators to know, for teachers as well to know, definitely for families and students. Next slide. Okay, now for English learners though, if they are still classified as English learners, they need to demonstrate proficiency in the LPAC. So they have to score at the level of proficient in LPAC in order to be able to attain the seal. So as you can see, for English learners, there's multiple hurdles and challenges, right? But this one is important, of course, because they don't have to be reclassified, but they do have to be proficient in LPAC. Next slide, Sandra. Thank you. All right, so how about the proficiency in another language? And here we have several options. Option 1 is to pass an assessment. So it could be either an AP assessment with a 3 or above. As I said, level 3 is equivalent to intermediate mid in the ACTFL scale of proficiency. And so this is the minimum in the AP test. They could also pass an IB exam with a 4 or above, or an SAT2 language specific with a 600 or above. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have AP exams, SAT exams, AB exams for all the languages. And some of the less commonly taught languages don't have specific exams. And so in that case, the district can find an assessment, an off-the-shelf assessment that they can analyze and see if it provides the same rigor as an AP exam. And again, that would be that ACTFL level intermediate mid. And then they can adopt that assessment and approve it to be used for the seal of biliteracy. And so for your question, my school only offers ASL through year 3. Is there a way for students to take an exam at level 4 to qualify? So the question would be, and I would have to double check, is there an AP exam? I believe there's an AP exam for ASL. Or is there an SA2 exam? I don't believe there is. Or is there an off-the-shelf exam for ASL that can be used? And if that's the case, it doesn't matter that you don't have level 4, but the student, of course, will not have those 4 years, but they can still take the assessment.
So I don't know that there is an AP exam for ASL, but one of the things that you may be able to do is if one of your local community colleges offers ASL and they have different levels, if there's one that you could equate to a level 4, and they could adopt that as their level 4, the assessment ends up being whatever the school decides, as long as it's rigorous enough to be able to do it. So there may have to be some collaboration between the high school district and a local community college that may be able to kind of partner up with you to be able to determine what that assessment should be for your students. And given that criteria, I believe that as long as your world language teacher and administrator is able to certify that, it should be a good assessment that you could use.
Yes, thank you, Juan. And one caveat is, as long as there is an AP exam, an SAT exam that can be applied for the language, for example, for Spanish, the district has to use those. You cannot use a different assessment unless there is not an AP or an SAT exam. So again, you know, in the case of ASL and other languages that don't have AP or SAT, Juan's suggestion is a really good way to go. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here is a proficiency in another language, option 2, because students can also complete a 4-year high school course in the language with a 3 GPA or above, and they need to demonstrate oral proficiency in the language. So they could decide not to take the AP test, and they could decide to do this for students that complete those 4 years, but then the district has to have an oral proficiency exam in the language as well. So both of those together. And again, this is an option for for any language, but especially a really good option for students of languages that don't have an AP exam or an SAT exam. And I'm trying to look at the chat. Someone is saying, Cindy, your school needs help with this kind of thing and what assessments to adopt. We do have some lists of assessments that I can share with whoever emails me as well. Mm-hmm.
And just in terms of, you know, we're looking at other ways to be able to validate maybe a 3rd or 4th years of language. I mean, most community colleges align pretty well to the high schools, but if your local community college doesn't have a 3rd or 4th year level, that doesn't keep you from being able to reach out to other universities or other community colleges to be able to determine what a 4th level should look like. More than likely, what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to assess the curriculum at the high school level to be able to determine how that equates to their levels, to be able to provide you with maybe the final of that particular exam for the 3rd or the 4th level class, the 4th level class in this case. So, and I'm thinking of languages like, for example, Tagalog, right? Not every community college has Tagalog as an offering, but just because your local community college doesn't have it doesn't mean that you can't reach out to another part of the state where they teach that course to be able to see if someone can work with you to be able to establish that for your students, if that's a language that is highly desired in your school, or you have some students that want to graduate with the seal of biliteracy.
Yes. And to what you're saying also, Juan, our office is starting a project where what we are trying to do is collect assessments that are appropriate for the Seal of Biliteracy, that can be used. And again, we do have a list. Some of them have to be created. And so this is a new project we are starting. It's still in its infancy, but we are reaching out to some of the districts, like you were saying, Juan, that are already offering those seals of biliteracy. So we'll be able to have more resources to support you. And Eliana commented that SA2 will no longer be an option, right? Since it's being discontinued. Exactly. So yeah, that's another opportunity that our students will not have. So that is why it's so important for us. We feel that in creating some equity and in supporting districts and schools in providing the seal to students, to have a really robust collection of assessments that can be used. And also not only for the seal of biliteracy, but even to provide the credit for that some systems require for college graduation. For some of those languages that students already bring with them.
Now, the only thing that I'll add to Ms. Solis's question here about the SA2 no longer being an option because of they're reducing those courses, you also have the AP exam and the AP Spanish 4 exam. And for many students, if they would do well with the SAT2, there's a likelihood that they may be able to do well with the exam without having to take the course. But there are also ways to be able to work with your administrators to see if they can offer some prep classes for the AP exam prior to the exam without them having to take the class, because there's some students that their knowledge of Spanish is already pretty robust, that they may not need the entire formal course to be able to be successful. And I'm thinking here about a lot of your English language learners that are coming from another country, and maybe they've attended another country for 6 years or more. Those students usually come a little bit better prepared to be able to take on those exams without a lot of preparation. So that's an option as well.
Absolutely.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is just a school-wide public relations campaign movement to publicize the Seal of Biliteracy. I was an English learner. I went to school in Tijuana, in Mexico, until I was in 5th grade. And the Seal of Biliteracy was something that I really kind of was dear to me, because we had a lot of English language learners who had some skills and they speak Spanish at home, that it was something that would be real easy for them to be able to attain, but also it was also a sense of pride for me to be able to kind of get involved in a project like this, to be able to with the political climate sometimes, and speaking Spanish is not always cool in school, depending on where you go to school and things like that. It was one of those things that I saw an opportunity to be able to instill some pride, and being able to work with our parents and students so that they could appreciate their language and where they came from, and nurture that to be able to get some rewards for being in school and being validated with the ability to be bilingual. So if we can go to the next slide. One of the things that needs to happen is you need to have your administrators on board. And typically my experience has been that if you get involved in projects in school that are going to make the school look successful or do good by students, there's not many administrators that will get in your way to be able to make something happen. And so the principal has to be invested, and the administrators that oversee the world language department really need to be a part of creating a movement that they appreciate, being bicultural and also being bilingual. There has to be support financially. There's a little, with the things that I'm going to talk to you here, not a lot of money is needed. It's just really the desire to want to work well with a group of people and create a movement that's going to honor the students for being bilingual and biliterate. And that doesn't require a lot of work. It just requires some intentional work to be able to appreciate that. This is an opportunity also for schools to be able to leverage context at the district office and include people and being part of a celebration and acknowledging something that typically goes unnoticed. Most schools, especially at the high school level, they have a senior awards night. And when I started kind of getting involved with this, I didn't want this award to be part of senior awards night. I wanted this to be something different, something a little bit more special, so that our families can celebrate being bilingual and biliterate. And so I kind of took it away from senior awards night because I didn't want it to be just kind of lumped in together to a big night of event where everybody gets awards, and make it a little bit more special. So so we promoted this, and it's crucial that the vision of the Seal of Biliteracy gets communicated to students, classes, and parents. Leaders need to be present, and leaders need to be at this award ceremony at the end of the year, so that they understand why it's important. And one of the things as I do as a principal is communicate and discuss with our coffee with the principals and all our other events that I communicate throughout the year to our parents, the importance of validating the fact that they're bilingual. And many of our parents speak to their kids in Spanish, and so being able to tie that to an award or something that they can get at the end of the year, or after 4 years, is something that I want to make sure that they understand is possible. Next slide. Okay. The role of the World Language Department. And so the World Language Department, to me, needed to lead this effort. When I became an assistant principal in a particular high school where I was working at, I used to be a counselor. I used to be a high school counselor as well. And as many of you guys know, as high school counselors, there's a little bit of jealousy sometimes between electives, and sometimes an expectation that they expect counselors to be able to fill their programs. If not, sometimes you get blamed because photography has more students than world language and things like that. And just like in those types of instances, when I jumped in and I was overseeing this world language department, I had to kind of work with them, and instead of complaining about their department not having enough students, I used to have conversations with them with regards to what are you guys doing to be able to promote your own programs. You guys have a seal of biliteracy, and I was astonishing to be able to see that many of our world language teachers did not have a really good understanding of what the seal of biliteracy was, and or the pathway to how to be able to get there. And so we needed to kind of educate our world language department. And so one of the deals that I made with them was, look, if you really want to get more students into your department, first, the kids need to be able to see that they're going to get something out of your department. So the seal of biliteracy is a perfect way to be able to sell this, because another thing that they were having difficulties with was many of I have worked in schools where we have 75% Latino students or more. And with those kinds of numbers, there's no reason why we should not have more AP classes at the AP level 4 and 5, Spanish language and literature, because we have many students who speak the language because of their home environments. And again, that was a complaint that we didn't have enough students that got to the level 4 and the level 5. And so I said, okay, so we need to kind of grow our own success, and we need to be able to work with our own department so that the kids can see a pathway to be able to complete 4 years, because most of the high school kids complete just 2 years. And if they take a third one, it's usually because Avid is asking them to. And after that, they don't want to complete a 4th year. So the pattern that we were noticing at our school was that the kids would do what was minimally required, and then they would be done. And so I started working with the world language department to be able to kind of get this going. And I promised them that I was going to put together the seal of biliteracy ceremony the first years, because I wanted them to see the vision. But their responsibility was to talk to every grade level that they had in world language, from Spanish 1 all the way to Spanish speakers 2 and the AP level, to be able to sell the students on the concept to be able to be part of this at the end of the year. And so by doing this, you kind of empower your departments to be able to kind of take ownership, to be able to grow their programs, and you decrease the dependency on the counselors to be the good guy or the bad guy in terms of placing students in world language departments or in other elective classes, and you avoid yourself being in the middle there. And so by me volunteering to host the first seal of biliteracy ceremony, the first year, I told them right off the bat that I would take care of that the first year with their cooperation, and I would walk them through it. But after year 1, it was going to be their responsibility to be able to move it forward after that. So the role of the World Language Department was really to be the leaders in the program to be able to get this started. Next slide. In addition to that, we also have English language learners who are part of our schools who already come very prepared in understanding another language. Most of the time, at least here in California, it ends up being Spanish. But some of these students who are English language learners already come with a pretty good foundation in speaking another language. And we can leverage that to be able to have them be recipients of the Seal of Biliteracy as well. So even though the World Language Department was going to be the one leading the charge, the English Language Development Program also had a crucial role in being able to be part of this because we needed to sell it at that level as well. The criteria that Ms. Pando Solis shared with you earlier allows for the students to be able to recognize by completing the graduation requirements with at least a 2.0 or above. The majority of our kids meet that criteria because they're going to need to get a regular diploma. And if we can just solidify the way that they earn the other language requirements, then it's all a piece of cake after that. The students are able to participate. And so this was something that was very important to me because one of the things that I've also realized was that our students that are English language learners, sometimes in every scenario, and it didn't matter if it was in a highly populated Latino school that I worked at or not, they're still on the outskirts and looking at what's happening from the outside looking in. You know, we're not very deliberate to be able to have presentations to them to inform them about the rituals of a prom and a grad night and what all of this stuff means. And so sometimes they're a little bit socially isolated from the regular practices of what happened in a high school. And so by being more intentional and opening the doors with these academic awards, now they're part of something that they're able to achieve. And so now we start including them a little bit more in terms of the success of what happens in the school and recognizing them for being bilingual and biliterate, which I thought was very important to do at our schools. Okay, next slide. I also work with our ASB directors at the school site to be able to put together the ceremony and the events, being able to kind of work with them. The ASB directors and the students have a lot of access to be able to promote, create posters, videos, flyers, and promote school events that are important. And so I leveraged some of that responsibility onto them so that they could understand as well that, you know, planning your regular activities that you do from the pep assemblies and all these things throughout the years is important, but that they also needed to reach out to special programs and sometimes don't have access to be able to participate in the things that they create. And so in our ceremony, they did an amazing job of coming up with some Spanish speaking quotes and also some things to be able to kind of decorate the theater where we had the ceremony in order for the ASB to be part of this program. So this ended up being a venture between ASB, our AELD department, and our World Language Department and administration in the district office so that they can celebrate the things that we were doing for our students that were biliterate and bilingual. So it became important for this not just to become a pet project of the new assistant principal, but a movement within our school to be able to kind of change the culture and appreciate others for being bilingual. Next. So the Seal of Biliteracy ceremony, what did we do? We selected a date in the beginning of the year and submitted paperwork to secure the theater. That was important because as the year goes, you know, the theater starts becoming unavailable for all kinds of reasons. And so being able to establish a date in the beginning of the year was very important. I also needed to inform the departments to mark the calendars for the event so they can be available for that particular day and really have an expectation that everybody needed to be there so that we can celebrate our students because we were starting a movement. And so it was very important that they all had those dates ahead of time, including whatever district personnel you were going to invite so that they knew to put it on the calendar as soon as possible before things started getting filled up. I work with the district office to validate all students who should receive the award. So typically, the Seal of Biliteracy, if the district office receives a document with all the students who have met the criteria, and it's somewhere within the district office that resides, you may need to find out who it is in your district. For us, it was our coordinator of EL programs that would receive that information. And so then once we have the list of students, we can decide whether we're going to buy them the medallions so that we can present to the students or not, or if we're just going to give them a certificate, or how you're going to handle that. The medallions were not terribly expensive, but it was something that was important for me to be able to coordinate with the district office, because that had not been celebrated before in the past, and I wanted to make sure that that was not missed. And so I needed to identify who that person was at the district office so that I can work with them to get this done. And again, collaborating with ASB for decorations and making sure that we put a really nice event together was really crucial for me, to make sure that we kind of roped in more people to be part of the ceremony. Next slide. Okay, I also selected an opening speaker for the ceremony, and it was someone from the district office, someone that would do an introduction. And I would look for employees or some of my assistant superintendents or some board members that were bilingual, to be able to come and share give them 5 minutes to be able to speak about the importance of being biliterate and bilingual and where that had gotten them in life. And in addition to that, our keynote speaker usually ended up being a community person. And so I would have conversations with our superintendent and see if there's anybody within the community that we needed to come in and deliver a more powerful, someone from an outside the school speech. And luckily, I ended up getting one of our community college professors that was teaching Mexican American studies to be able to come and share their story. And that was really important to be able to do. And so the message was very well received by the parents. We also have the formal ceremony. We would tell the kids that they can bring 4 people depending on the theater capacity. Play inclusive music as the parents are coming in so that they know that we're going to be celebrating. Principals, speakers, and organizers present the awards, and you take pictures and promote through social media as well. I'm looking at the time and I didn't realize we're getting that close. So that's how we pulled off the Seal of Biliteracy ceremony. Next slide. So some of the things that you can do throughout the year to promote the Seal of Biliteracy: talk to students in class, back to school nights, create some brochures, post it on social media, the website, create a little buzz about it, activities about benefits of being in the Seal of Biliteracy or receiving that. These are some of the things that you can do to promote that throughout the year. All right. And so the College and Career Ready Seal of Biliteracy, now that with the college and career components that we have in our districts, and for them to be able to show that they qualify for that, and for the students for your school to look better. The state and Seal of Biliteracy is one of those factors, as well as being able to score the 3 in the CASP. So being able to promote the Seal of Biliteracy is another reason why district administrators and you should be celebrating that opportunity to be able to do that, because it helps you with your, what is it called? Your index. Okay. And so far we have 39 states that provide, the Seal of Biliteracy opportunities for students in their states. We're 11 short from getting to 50, but as you can see, every year it's kind of been growing and getting better. So we're at 39 right now. And if you wanted more information about the Seal of Biliteracy, it's listed right there in the bottom at sealofbiliteracy.org. Next, sorry.
Here you have a page of links if you want to learn more about the College and Career Readiness Indicator, or if you want to learn more about the State Seal of Biliteracy on our World Languages page for our very own San Diego County Office of Education. Sandra can put the link in the chat. Yes, this is our World Language page. And you can find the section about the State Seal of Biliteracy. And here you have some information about the requirements and some links of interest at the bottom. And of course, you can also find a place to request our support also on this page, or you can just email me. And we'll share the email in the last slide. So thank you, Sandra. And so to end, these are exciting times for language education in California. And if you click one more time, Sandra, your role as counselor is critical in helping students stay in language classes. And as Ruben was explaining, it's a pathway that you start from the very first year of high school. You can't achieve the seal on the last year. You have to plan for it starting in 9th grade, and your support to students, your collaboration with world language teachers is really critical in this work. And thank you so much. We appreciate your attention and being here with us and your work for multilingualism. Here you can see our emails.